All set? Okay, we will call to order the December 4th, 2025 meeting of the Historic District Commission for the City of Saugatuck. We'll start with a roll call. Sarah, would you help us with that, please?
Baldwin.
Here.
Narza.
Here.
Dean's not. Lampin.
Here.
Ruth is not. Straker.
Here.
We have Cora.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any changes or additions or deletions to the agenda tonight? We're good. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes of the regular meeting held on October 2nd?
Yes.
And was it October 2nd? Did we skip
We
November?
didn't have a meeting. in
Yeah,
November.
I just happened to think about that. Okay. And if so, do I have a motion to approve them?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Thank you. Any public comments on tonight's agenda items? Okay. With there being no unfinished business, we'll go straight to the first of our three items tonight. First is 546 Butler Street, which is a street facing double French door replacement. And Daniel, it looks like you're on the phone. Can you hear us okay?
Yes, I am. And I
Okay,
can.
thank you. I'll ask you if you want to just describe your project a little bit. Daniel and I have exchanged emails around the application. While it seems simple on the surface, just for any new commissioners or anyone listening in, whenever it's a door or window, no matter how simple it seems, especially if it's a contributing structure, we always just like to have a meeting and make sure we're having good dialogue about that. So just sort of point of clarity around what we administratively approve and what we don't. So Daniel, we have your info in the packet. Anything you want to add to project?
No, I just want to make it as painless as possible. We kind of presented two options. Our first option is all glass. And then the second option is basically replacing with exactly what's there right now.
Okay. And from a spec sheet standpoint, before I send it around the table for us to have some dialogue about it, are you requesting a wood door, a wood clad door? What material, what manufacturer?
The two choices I sent to you were Genwell doors. They're both steel with insulated cores, 72 by 80. Pretty basic. But I haven't purchased anything yet. And, we definitely wanted to make sure that we got the okay before we went ahead and bought anything. So.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple questions and comments, but we'll send it around the table. Do you want to start, Megan?
Sure. Thank you for weighing in and sending all of the information. Can you please speak to the materiality of the existing doors? And then also discuss, what's wrong with the doors and sort of your process for determining that they needed to be completely replaced.
Sure. I'm guessing, first of all, the existing doors are wood. I feel like I sent a photograph in with the application, but along the bottom of the existing doors, there's quite a bit of rot and decay happening. The doors are very energy inefficient. We get a lot of cold air through there. And then obviously with it being a gallery, we're concerned about, how well these doors are going to lock. I don't feel that our inventory is secure inside. So we want a door that locks well and will provide a little better security. So those would be the three main reasons why we feel like a complete replacement is what we need to do.
Can you explain the way that the door currently opens? It swings out.
Yes, are you guys looking at the,
Yeah, we're looking at
Okay.
the current photo. Yep.
okay, perfect. So on the right is the doorknob and it opens out.
So that's the only operational panel.
Well, it has the deadbolts on the left side that you can open and they can both swing outward.
Isn't that, I'm sorry. Isn't it odd that the hinges are on the outside of an exterior door?
All right.
With no overhang, it's odd. When there's an overhang, it's not.
I couldn't speak to that. I mean, I think in a perfect world, it would be on the inside, but obviously we're dealing with a building here that's, I don't know, 75 years old
Yeah.
in that range.
We're a small enough group tonight. We're just going to do a round robin of just other questions. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I do notice just, and this is an old building and I'm just looking at it from my own work experience perspective. They're rotting at the bottom because they sit right on the ground and we have weather in Michigan, obviously. So in a new construction situation, you would build up the door a few inches to give some space. So I understand that there's definitely rotting that would need for them to be replaced. I have a concern, from my perspective. I would like to see the spec sheet on the door that you plan to replace it with. I like to study the information that's given. So I would personally like to see a little bit more information, before I feel comfortable making a decision.
Okay. Helen, any other questions?
yeah, I would concur with the spec sheets. We don't have any of those. What are the sizes? Is it custom? Is it standard? I don't know, that, have we explored still replacing them with a wood? I mean, they certainly make good wood doors now. That's the current material. We should, I think, strive to, keep the same materials. So I've got concerns about the materials. I've got concerns about the sizing. I've got concerns about the specs. I'd like to see definitely more detail on that. I don't know, how historic, what the rules are. I was looking that, before this, it was already non-divided light. It was just a clear door. Is it okay to go back to that since that was the original one? Do we get hung up on the fact that these are divided light now? I don't know what the rules are. I'm assuming that we've got some sort of process that we follow for that. But mostly I'm concerned about the materials at this stage and have you examined what it would cost to, I mean, so you go back to, it's got to be cost prohibitive. I don't know how bad of the condition is. Can they be repaired in the fashion that they are? I mean, there's houses that have original doors that are from the 1800s. This door is from 1977. So is it possible to repair it and keep it nice? I don't know what the price would be to repair it versus replace it. And again, just haven't seen that information.
Are you okay if I jump in?
No, I'll go next. Is that okay?
Yeah, if you want.
I feel strongly that this should not be replaced like for like. This architecturally, this building has international style windows, I believe, and they're steel. That's a very important factor. These are wood doors and they're incongruent with the rest of the windows. At some point, those windows were painted black. I think they were light early on, but the black it's pretty distinctive. These are pretty opposite, and they have much wider profile than a divided light. I think it's completely appropriate to do a single pane steel door. But I would add that I know we don't chime in on color, but I think they should be black to go with the windows. So then I think the divided light doesn't have to match the other divided light on the windows. One single pane, really simple framed steel door feels very appropriate to me for this property.
Can I ask you a question though? When you say steel door, are you thinking like in the same opening size as like a single pane French door. You're not talking about a true like steel door, right?
No, his
Yeah.
first choice, you
Yeah.
can't see it here. It's just
Yeah.
a framed, single pane.
Right.
It doesn't have the
Full-
divided
full
light.
light.
I think the divided light is wrong, for this architecture.
No, I'm asking just about the steel, yeah.
Steel, yeah, you had to put the picture back up there. Yeah, we did have that in our packet. It didn't show up. That, to me, is completely appropriate. And if it's
Yeah.
steel, I don't know if it's a Geldwin door. I think it's completely appropriate.
Can you pop the current one back up again? Anything else?
No,
I totally agree. The international style steel windows are amazing on this house.
Can we see that?
they're like a
I don't know that
driving.
you can kind of
architectural element.
see them. I don't know if you
Yeah.
can see them. Can you see them?
Like a bluish.
I think they're bluish. So
No,
I don't
they're
know that I would don't agree with your black thing. That's
Well,
that's a
or
choice.
whatever the windows are.
Yeah.
I don't know, the white is what stands out.
They're still painted. That's a choice.
Yeah. If I could interrupt, there it is a blue. I can see why you might think it's black, but it's
Yeah.
a blue.
Sorry. So can you go back to the photo
Which one?
The current.
existing?
Yep.
Oh, shit, that was painful.
But the international style is very
Let me,
fine, just so they know.
I know. So the cornice above this detail above where the 546 is also not original. So this whole view is like a sort of early American nod that was put on this house at some point. Even the old photo we have, that door structure was not original. So like my point is the view we're looking at here, like I wouldn't want to prohibit the applicant for going full divided light based on the vibe that's in this photo of divided light that goes with that whole thing, because I don't think that ever existed on this house.
Didn't. I mean, when you see the picture like back in the 70s, it looks like it was probably replaced, not according to historical standards. Well, or if we had been.
Well, it's probably
Wasn't there.
before, even
Yeah,
before the
exactly.
district. But I like my philosophy on this would be against our guidelines as a contributing structure. He could replace these like as, honestly. So he could say, like, that's why it could have been a staff application or a staff approval, because in a way, he could do exactly wood door like as, whatever this is, 15 divided light. And I don't think that's right. I appreciate the fact that there's a different moment that's being asked for, which is less embellishment on a house that didn't have it in the first place. So I'm good with the full light. I think on the spec sheet, I think that might be my fault because the applicant reached out to me to sort of understand the system, and I had wrongly assumed that he had spec sheets and had submitted them. So I should have asked for that. That's my fault for not guiding the applicant a little better on that. But I think we could still approve this or make a motion rather, on what they've asked for and conditioned on providing a spec sheet. I also don't really have a problem with this being a steel full light door versus a wood. Partly for the reason you're bringing up, Megan, about, I assume this is going back in as an opening out
Right,
door.
the
And
weather.
that might help them a little bit by having it be a steel.
Yeah,
But I don't feel compelled to ask them to put a wood door back in this case, just for all the reasons. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
the door is a smooth steel door, correct?
Correct. It is a primed steel door.
It's a good clarification to be done.
And I think someone asked about size. It is a standard 72 wide, 80 tall door, which is what is there right now.
Okay.
Honestly, every time I go by this house from the first time I was here, I always thought that used to be a garage or something based on these French doors and not
The
liking them.
interior, the interior would lead you to believe that that was a garage at one point as well.
Right.
And the old photo kind of shows.
Yeah,
looks like it is
exactly.
too. And that would explain, like Mike had said, it's not lifted off the ground. That was a garage that you drove into.
That's right.
Right.
So
Somebody want to make a motion?
I think I see the window online here. It looks just like the picture. So I think you could like get that after the fact.
Okay. Do you want me to, I can make the motion. Do you want me to
Sure.
put any conditions on as far as spec sheets or anything like that, or
You
just?
can do it in the discussion if you want,
Okay, so go ahead and make a
or
motion.
whatever you like. You go for it.
Chair Straker, motion to approve the applicant's request for the removal of the existing multi-pane French double hinge doors and installation of a single pane French double hinge door system as presented in the application supporting materials.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thanks. Any discussion? I would add to the motion that spec sheet to be, did you say, you didn't say that?
I did.
Spec sheet to be provided to staff for final staff approval to make sure it meets our guidelines.
Okay, that's no problem. Timothy,
Hold
would
on, hold on. We're still in a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Opposed? Okay, motion passes. Sorry about that. Daniel, what else would you?
No problem. Just the spec sheet. Would I forward that to you then?
To Grayson at the city.
Okay.
Thanks so much for going through that effort. We appreciate it. It's a great house and it'll be a good improvement to it.
Thank you. I
Thank you.
think it looks like Allison might want to say something.
Oh, sorry. Well, this is, we're not at a point for public comment. Are you a part of the application?
I own the building with Dan.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I should have asked you to introduce yourself in the beginning. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Just quick question then, does that mean that the paint that we were showing in the visual is also part of that? Because I don't think we put that on the application.
Yeah, we don't approve paint colors, so you can
Oh, okay.
you can paint it how you'd like.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next application, which is a historic district sign proposal. We have Andy on the phone from Concept A. A little background on this, just for the record. I think y'all know how this got started. We talked about this as a project and focus for the commission to update our signs at the entry points for each end of the city or more. We reached out to Concept A. I think we had a brief in the packet a few meetings ago so everyone could see sort of what we were asking for. And I've had one meeting with Andy and the team to deliver on the brief and give them some guidance on how to prepare the application for today. So with that, I'll turn it over to you guys and sorry, McKenna, you as well, to share the application and the update.
Yeah, Tim, thanks. Do you have it pulled up in front of you?
We do.
Okay. So,
Well, it'll be on the screen. Yeah.
okay. I just have it on my computer. So based on the brief provided, the brand essence of creating a sign that was a little bit more fresh, celebratory, timeless, and a sense of pride, right? We want to make sure that this sign embodies the attributes of Saugatuck and feels like it belongs. So we started to just kind of looking, if you go to the next page, we just kind of looking in general, like historic districts. Some are mentioned in the brief.
Hold on, Andy. Just go back up to the top. Yeah. Nope, up to the exploration part. There you go.
Yep. Gotcha.
One more up. I think all the way to the beginning to this application. There you go. Okay. You're on the inspiration page. I don't know if you can see that, Andy.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't see. I just see the view of you, but that's okay.
Okay, so you're on. Bear with us.
Okay.
Why isn't it letting me share that?
We can. There you go. Can you see
Okay.
that?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Okay, now you know what you're talking about.
Um, yeah, so I mean, there are some some like historical districts mentioned in the brief. We also did our own research and just try to get a sense of like what we felt was working and the variety. So this is just a small sample of the inspiration we did pull. I think some include some of the town's branding with it. You know, and some were just kind of standalone and typeset. And I think, you know, with this expiration, we know the city of Sagatuck's undergoing at least the idea of new branding. And we were kind of informed that this historic district sign kind of was a standalone piece and shouldn't be reflected on any of the branding initiatives moving forward. So I think it still works. I think there's a way to make it unique and be historic district specific. So what we really noticed here is that the historic district standing out as a primary like focal point was really working for us and should be the first thing that someone reads as they kind of go down the road and enter into the district. So if you go to the next page, our studio is pretty familiar with the Sagatuck Douglas area. I think we've been involved in the tourism branding now for over 5 years. I mean, we try to continuously learn. So we pulled some of the historical inspiration that have seen in the past that might be applicable to this district sign. We think the typeface at Village Hall is very unique and ownable. The chain fair, obviously, and then we found this poster within the historical district that was kind of unique and started to kind of like do this illustration of some of the various landmarks around the area. And so taking all that into consideration with our creative exploration. If you go to the next page, we just did our due diligence of like looking at some of the signs around the area. You know, how can the historic district sign like stand out, you know, and be unique, and the level of class and sophistication that we feel like it should have when you start looking at all the other signs around the area. And, you know, this kind of started to kind of talk about materiality, a little bit of the color, you know, to really make sure that it didn't blend in with everything else that was kind of going around within the area. And then we kind of 3 concepts. So I'm sure you've seen these. If you want to flip to the next page, the first one is what we'd call the more classic concept. It's a very clean, modern typography. Historic districts, the primary, secondary messaging would be entering the city of Sagatuck. We see this as like a cast aluminum metal sign, and we're kind of showing this on more of an ornate black metal pole. But as we go through this presentation, what that sits on can change. And the overall shape has just a very small wave on top. So it's not quite rectangle. It has like a little bit of form to it. Doesn't necessarily have to be symbolic of anything. We think it's easy on the eye and just kind of fits maybe the coastal vibe of the city of Sagatuck. Next concept starts to pull in the lettering of, you know, something reflective of the Village Hall. So we feel like this is slightly a little bit more ownable and ties into the city of Sagatuck kind of feel and the charm. Again, nothing really changed here except just the typeface that we chose for historic district. And then the third concept is probably the most ownable. And we just wanted to explore this idea of maybe bringing in some illustrations, you know, and what that might look like at the bottom. So here we have the chain ferry, the Village Hall, Mount Bald Head, the radar tower, and then the old pavilion as an idea. So 3 concepts, all 3 kind of various ranges. Nothing too different in terms of the color or the shape. The next page, I think you can kind of see just when you look at like the pole design, you know, and you have this conversation, you know, the black, more ornate pole I think visually disappears and puts a lot of the focal point on the sign. I think when you start thinking about more like a wood veneer, and again, this could be pure wood or it could be um, like a metal that looks like wood. But this is just an idea that something like a little bit more warmth could also be considered. And then I think the last slide is just kind of a good slide to end on. It kind of shows all three for conversation and discussion. So this is round one concepts. You know, we're looking forward to hearing your feedback on these directions and then how to kind of move forward from here.
Thanks, Andy. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'll save my comment to the end. Who wants to start?
I will. I think you did a great job with this. I love the shape of the sign. I love the color of the sign. I know this is more subjective, because we're giving our opinions. I think the illustrative is so interesting and so cool. But I prefer the classic lettering. I just think it's easier on the eye to read. And the black pole is fantastic compared to the other one. And I think round is the right choice. So I don't really need to see anything else, and I don't need to ask anything else. I love it.
Great. Thank you. Megan, go this one.
I also appreciate all three designs. My two favorites were the first and the third. And for the reasons that John stated, I really like his thoughts about changing the font on the third to match the first for the exact same reasons. One thing that I did like, if we did go more simplistic and go with the first, on some of the other inspiration photos, they had an established date. I think it was just on one, or founded. And I thought that was sort of nice for historic district. So if we did go more simplistic, that might be nice to add. So those were just my comments.
Do you put in the date that the historic district was founded?
I don't know. I
That's
just found that kind of
1982.
interesting.
I'll come back to that.
Okay.
It's a fair comment. And they thought of it.
I think that they all look great. I do agree. I like the classic font. I like the more simplistic. Of course, I love all of our icons and that, and they're beautiful. But just driving into town or whatever, it looks a little bit busy to me. So if it were me and I could just pick one, and absolutely, there's no choice on the pole that black is just that's the way to go. From my perspective, I do not like the wood that look at all with that. I think that the black is very traditional, and I like the ornateness. I agree that the font for the classic is much easier on the eyes, but I would prefer that it's doesn't have the if it's my preference. Now, I think that they're pretty and I like them and there are icons, and I would totally be on board with that if that's the case. But if you're asking my opinion, and you are, I would leave those off. And yeah, I thought about the founding date, but I think that like our historic district is like 1982 or something like that. So it doesn't seem as cool as 1868, right? Yeah. So that's
Well, I didn't know if you do the
incorporation date or
right, like, because I mean, I was curious also of what is that, right?
Yeah,
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
For us, it's
We had a lot of
1858.
conversation about that. I'll circle back.
Okay.
It's a fair call out. Scott?
Thanks. Sorry I was late. Any concerns that some of the buildings are not in the historic district? I don't believe the radar station.
Right. I was wondering about
The
that.
pavilion doesn't exist.
The pavilion
Yes.
burned down. So that's just an observation. I don't know if that's a deal, but it's not a deal breaker for me. I'll just raise it as at least one of those things is not in the historic district. I think we all agree, and I agree with the metal pole, the very formal, substantial looking metal pole. Like that's a no-brainer. I'm of two minds on the font. I can see how the first font is easier on the eyes. I'm quite a big fan of the unique, I don't know if you'd call it almost arts and crafty lettering on Village Hall. I do sort of like that. It's a little bit more, to me, and I'm not saying that the Saugatuck is, you know, known for being arts and crafts, it's just a little bit less sort of. I don't know, the lettering on Village Halls looks more kind of Midwestern historic to me than these, which to me look, both of these fonts are to me a little bit more what I would expect to see more in the East Coast. But again, these are all excellent renderings, and you know, I certainly wouldn't fall on my sword over any of these comments. Just some observations being the new guy on the commission.
Thank you. A little bit more dialogue on some of what each of you said. So if I step back for a minute and we look back to the brief in our conversation with Concept A, my comments at the beginning and comments in looking at what they brought was, I do think we have to put it in context to what may happen in terms of city branding. And what is you have to answer whether we do city branding or not, which is the council's prerogative. I think you have to sort of break it down to what is the role of city branding and then what is the role of this. The role of this is to mark an area. It's to be celebratory, but it's to note that you're entering something. That's what we said anyway. That's the brief we gave him. And I love this page to having our sad little historic district sign in the upper right-hand corner. Just sort of like there is no like moment of celebration or ceremony involved with that. It's just sort of like of equal weight and voice as a speed sign.
Is it a campground?
Or is it a campground?
Right.
So like, I think there's a giant box that's been checked of a sense of celebration, a sense of boundary passing, a sense of entry. And so that accomplishes the brief. To your points that you guys are bringing up about the icons, I think that gets into branding territory. And I also am very mindful of something that is timeless. So if I wore a city branding hat for a minute, like I would never, city branding doesn't mean everything all around town changes to be that thing. It just doesn't mean that. I would never get rid of the pallet sign. I would never get rid of the wood signs that sort of speak to 1978 or 1985 or whatever, even the Coughlin Park sign that's in there somewhere in this presentation. Everything has a moment that I think is important to the city. So to me, the icons compete with those other moments that are going on. And whatever layer of city branding may occur, to me would be at a digital layer, at a communication layer, at a continuity layer, but it wouldn't change like the marker or the monument layer. And this to me is a monument layer. And I wouldn't want it to compete with the other monument layers. So while I love the icons, I think they're really clever. I think it's too much for this little sign to perform. I would go with one or two. I'm indifferent on either one. I agree with you, Scott. I think like there is something a little more ownable about the City Hall font. It's a little like the chart, the classic #1 is it's a little classic for this sort of Midwest art town, but I don't think there's much of a distinction between either one of those. And then like lastly on the established by, and it felt really weird to see this sort of ceremonial historic district sign and then like established 1981.
Mm-hmm.
And then it didn't feel honest to say 18 something where the city was incorporated or founded or whatever. So you guys can totally override me on this, but I asked them to take it off because I thought it would raise more questions than not.
Yeah, I agree with both those points. That 1981 seems silly for our historic district to put when we established it. And actually, you guys have swung my vote to #2 now. I can see that the first one, I do think it's easier on the eyes and it looks like something that you would normally see, but this, I think that the second one maybe does look a little bit more Saugatucky Midwestern-y as opposed to, or even just the first one that looks a little more Grosse Pointe, which is beautiful, but I just, I think that I've come around to agreeing with the font on that one.
Yeah, Chairman, my gut, I appreciate all the comments. I think they're all extremely helpful. My gut was #2. Is it possible to go back though and just look at the City Hall font
don't
if it is even.
feel like it
No one's gonna,
connects.
no
Yeah.
one's gonna
I don't
translate.
think that's a
Right.
connection we can make, because I looked at the description and so I was like, oh, is it the same? I don't feel like it's a,
It's a reference and
Yeah.
no one will get that.
No,
It's one of those Easter eggs that's lovely for
Yeah.
design-minded people to do, and I agree with it, but I don't think it's a red thread that anyone would understand. I think readability and continuity is more important of what you all are calling out. I just think it's putting words in your mouth a little bit, Andy and McKenna, but it's always just nice to know that an idea is rooted in something or derived from something, but I don't know that it's.
They did a beautiful job, though. I'm
Yeah,
very
it's-
impressed with what we got.
Do we want to make a motion on one, knowing that this would go to city council, I think, to make the final decision based on the HDC recommendation? I think that's the way that is going to work.
I wouldn't mind hearing from our experts a summary of what we just talked about and what they think.
Fair?
Because I think this was a valiant effort and all beautiful options. So maybe you guys can speak to it and what you think of what you just heard. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm sorry. What was the question then?
I would like to just hear a summary of what you just heard us say and what your recommendation would be. You presented three beautiful options and I don't know if you put them in your preference of order. If the third one was a wild card or, I understand Tim's point about the branding, but I think that has a lot of merit anyway, as symbols. And I do think I'm looking at the two fonts and I really have a hard time with that second one, reading it. I don't see it. If I'm in my car, I'm not reading it.
I agree.
It's
Just it
blurring together for me.
odd.
Yeah.
Well,
So I'm
I
asking, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're, and Tim, I'm not quite sure of the process, but what I'm hearing is that there's a like for number 2 and the more charming and the ownable one within the village, and that the illustrations, don't need to be part of the sign. So I would go down number 2, but I'm definitely open to the idea of us exploring just a little bit more, either a stronger tie to the Village Hall font. So we could really take a look at that Village Hall font. We probably could even recreate it. Or we could just look at ways to maybe make this a little bit more readable. It might just be the thick to thin ratios. It might be just a little bit more of a kerning and letting drill. But I would just go back to the studio and make some refinements to number 2. And do some readability drills. So what I always think about is 10 feet, 100 feet, and 1,000 feet. And just what's recognizable, I mean, we don't want this to be only at 10 feet. We want to make sure that people can read this from 100 feet to 500 feet away. So, but I'm liking where we're going with number 2 and the charming mindset. I don't think there's a drastic change to that concept. I think it's more of a refinement thing.
The only thing I'd say, Andy, is I don't think there's a preference in this room for number 2. I think it's pretty split. I think I heard likes and dislikes for both. So if I'm okay if you go down the 2 or 1 and 2 route, hearing our feedback to make it readable, and that's the recommendation we send to council. I think Megan's point is completely right around the reference, and so I don't want to get too hung up on the reference to City Hall, but knowing that there's meaning behind something, and if you can make it work and you feel good about it as a recommendation to John's point, I think that's great. So maybe that's the motion we make.
Okay.
Other thoughts?
I'll kick things off. I think going back and, I think obviously the readability, understandability makes a heck of a lot of sense. And I know we can't predict how the city wants to brand. I just, for a historic district here, I think it will likely though, I'm just guessing, it will harken back to the sort of creative aspects of the community, and that is the arts community. And, and I'm not an expert on any of this. I'm a fan of arts and crafts.
Jay Smith is now on the program. With the honest, situation. And now what was playing this Bucks team.
Andy, I think you might want to go on mute. There you go.
Okay, sorry. So I'd be happy to look at some, work with the fonts to, try to balance that sort of readability, but, I guess I'm thinking something like if you had an artist create a font as opposed to, a printing shop or a printing press in like the, northeast of the United States, these are the fonts we need for publishing versus, this is the font I want to put outside of my storefront, I mean, we can't predict where they're going to go with branding, but I think I would predict it will harken back in, to things like nature and to the arts community. So, if there are certain fonts that are readable that also speak to that, I think that could be interesting.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we table it and ask Andy and team to come back with the a couple more options based on our feedback of readability and reference. And we can do that in the January meeting. There's nothing that says we have to do this right now. If you guys are good with that. I think the only bit of feedback, I think to your point, Scott, is I think the one clear thing in the brief that we gave Andy is this should not be specific, meaning it shouldn't be a thing that like has too much in it to make it a thing. Like it needs to be sort of a boundary marker that is, like we've said. Like I think the role of city branding goes more towards what you're saying of being ownable and a personality. I don't know that it's one of the reasons I didn't think the icons were right for this is because it's kind of a lot of personality for a little boundary sign. But I think if we ask Concept A to come back with a refinement between classic and charming of like no more than a couple options for us to consider, we can put that forward to council. And
The only other thing I would add, and this just came to my mind because the classic one, I'm curious about any additional towns that are nearby that might use that same font. For instance, I'm thinking of East Grand Rapids, and I feel like there's something very similar because colors too. And then I'm also thinking about St. Joseph. I feel like that's very similar. So there may be, while I appreciate how that looks and feels, I wonder if there's an opportunity to differentiate a little bit.
I think that's
So
totally fair.
maybe that's something to consider too. But readability, I think, should be first and foremost and clean and a marker and not trying to be any type of style. Because in the interest of what we do, we are always, trying not to be non-conforming or, I think we walk a fine line with not wanting it to.
So Andy, maybe if you take Scott's comments and Megan's comments and all of our comments wrapped up, and then feel free to throw something at me with this last bit. But based on what Megan just said, like, I agree with like, especially John's readability comment on number 2. But the reason I sort of gravitated towards number 2 is there's a front gate component to number 1, meaning like, I don't want it to be too close to a metal plaque that you can get for your house. So what they're suggesting in making it a little bit more ownable takes it away from something you like might see someplace else. I didn't mean that to
Well,
be like,
That's a good point. That's exactly why I was drawn most to number 3. Is there another option that's illustrative that isn't using our icons? Is there another, do we have any kind of symbol or, I don't know, is there anything else that we could put at the bottom? That one just seems so much more interesting.
yeah.
Just to have some weight at the bottom that's fine lined drawings. What else could it be that's not a branding thing? I don't know. Do we have a seal?
trees or-
Do we have a seal? Trees, water? A lot of the ones, a couple of the examples had nods to the water. We're about water. We're about trees. We're about
You mean like
art.
the current logo at the bottom of the screen? That's
No.
that's city
No,
branding.
no, not-
That's
not
why
like
we
that.
have to stay away from that stuff, in my opinion, on.
Do we have a city seal or of any kind? Like, is there any kind of like? I don't
Well, I think that they're talking about changing
Is
even our
the
logo.
Founder of Saugatuck.
Yeah.
Could we do I don't know.
I feel like you hit it right on the head, Tim. This is 1 and 2 to me feel like a front gate, like a thing that you put on your gate or on your front door or on your garage, that they're embossed gold. I mean, we see them all over the place. I like the shape of this. I just think it needs something else.
Would it,
I think they were on the right track with, I personally like the illustrative, but I understand where you're talking about. But is there something that can go down there that isn't branding?
would it be too busy to put elements of an old plat of the city, an old map of the city, something,
Yeah, something like that.
something with, a hunk of, one of those old plats with some streets? I mean, obviously it's, it's meant, and I agree with the comments that this is supposed to be functional as opposed to stylistic, so function rules. I think we're all in agreement on that. I'm just wondering if,
Or like a line drawing of the streetscape of Butler Street from.
I don't think there's any, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't think there's any rule that says it can't have style to it, that it needs to be total all business. That's just sort of the brief we gave them. So I think you guys have heard us. I don't want us to solve by committee. So you've heard us talk about maybe explore more personality, more ownable. There's things we like about each of them. Maybe just take all that and come back with a couple options in January. Keeping in mind too, what's in scope and what's not in scope of spending more money with you than we've agreed to as a city. So I want to be mindful of the time that goes into it.
I think, can you hear me?
Yep.
I think that's where on this recent round of feedback, I feel like it's starting to kind of become more of a historic district brand project, and outside just a sign project. So I just want to make sure that we are staying true to the brief that we bid on, and if we feel like it needs to depict something else than just the fact that you're entering the historic district, and making people aware of that, then
I
I
don't
just want
think
to make
it
sure that
should-
we're super clear of that.
Yep. I don't think you hear us saying I think it's a good clarification. You don't hear us saying this project should morph into a historic district brand conversation. Maybe you just hear
Okay.
us saying, like in many historic districts, you cross that threshold and
Yeah.
know you're going from to, and it's a thing.
Yep.
And when it's a thing, it's because of a little bit of how it makes you feel. Is it official? So there's something on the scale of where you're going to land on the official side of this is a district versus this is a society. And we don't want to be in the society, like we're a group of people in the historic district. I don't think. I think the original idea was celebrate and protect, and have people notice left and right on the street as they're going through what makes this historic district a historic district.
Okay. Can you provide a date of when the next round submission would need to be able to make the January board?
January
Our meeting right now is on the 1st of January.
Yeah,
we'll
so-
be discussing next.
It'd be like
The following.
for whatever that Friday is after the first, because the meeting would be the week after, right?
January 2nd.
Yeah, JFA would be like submission for the second or the following Monday. Is that
Yeah, that's
following Monday, the 4th, for the Thursday, January 8th meeting?
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at these comments and come back with another proposal.
Okay. So do we need a motion to table? Yeah, I'm always bad at this.
I'll make one just to be safe.
Okay,
Chair Straker, make a motion to table discussion of approval on historic district signage until the January 2026 meeting.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Okay. Thanks so much, you guys. We really appreciate you joining by Zoom tonight.
Absolutely beautiful
And
job.
appreciate your efforts.
I'm very impressed.
Great. Thank you guys for having us. Good night.
Good
Hi,
night.
thank you.
Last item on the agenda is the approval of our 2026 dates.
Yes, so as we just kind of mentioned, that January 1st date will need to get adjusted. And then just so you guys are all aware, per your bylaws, that'll be when we do the election of officers again. I did want to flag that January 8th, the following week, there's also a zoning board of appeals meeting, so might have to push it to the Friday or the Tuesday of that week.
Tuesday. Is my vote.
Tuesday's fine. I won't be here, but Tuesday's fine. Either you or Keith could. Whatever works for you guys. I'm in New York then.
I think you should be.
We can also.
Yeah, so we can.
One more week. too.
Push it one more week?
Yeah.
It's fine too. Oh, wow.
So then there's the planning commission meeting that Thursday, so, but any other, and then Monday is the city council meeting, so you'd have Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday that week.
Can we do Wednesday? Oh, you're still gone.
Can we do Friday? It doesn't have to be at 6 o'clock. We could do Friday in the afternoon if it works for people. It
Friday the 9th?
That would work for me.
works for me.
Good for
That'd
me.
be great.
Perfect.
What time? I'm sorry.
6 p.m. still.
Oh, you still want to
No,
do
we
it
were
at 6?
talking about afternoon.
I'd say do it in the afternoon if
Afternoon?
that way it's
Can
not
we
so
do that?
burdensome on
Yeah,
staff.
as long as
and-
it's posted.
Guys,
Do you want to say like 3
It
or?
doesn't have to be
4?
right at noon either. We could do like
3?
3 is good, then you can work, you know.
Three's great.
You don't have to just.
Yeah, I don't want to make the staff have to hang out on a Friday night.
Right. I think 3 is good, because then you get. Day.
the 8th and 3.
Wait, the 8th is the Thursday,
Sorry, the 9th.
9th.
And then the rest of these dates are all okay.
No, on holidays.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to approve these?
I can take a stab at it. Chair Straker, I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting dates as stated with the exception of January 1st, 2026 to be moved to Friday, January 9th at 3 p.m.
Wonderful. Second,
Second.
any more discussion on those dates? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Okay, we have dates. Administrative approvals are listed. Nothing.
I have a
Wacky?
question
Yeah,
on
sure.
the administrative approvals. And this is a curiosity of my own. So the application for the 220 Water Street parking lot, there's really no information on that application and it's hardly legible. And so I'm just curious about what's happening there.
Yes. So this one was an after the fact notice that the work had been done. When
God.
provided pictures, more of a discussion happened to make sure that nothing significant had changed. And then had this retroactively filled out.
Okay. But that isn't the typical process and
Correct.
that's why, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good call. Any more thoughts?
I have just a question on kind of along the lines of what you're saying. When a project has been approved a while back and we see it starting now, are you always aware of that when they actually start? No.
No.
So
Do you want to just to make sure I'm doing a point of order, do you want to make that commission comments?
okay,
Just hold on for 1 sec.
yep, sorry.
That's okay. Because I just want to close out the administrative approvals. No communication? No public comments? Anybody else on the phone? Okay, commission comments. Sorry, go.
Okay, so carrying on what I said, when we see something starting, is there a quick way to go back and like look at it so that we're aware of it and we can make sure that people are doing what they said they were gonna do? Because we know people sometimes change things midstream. And I'm thinking particularly of the house on Lucy Street that we approved. It was a non-conforming house, but there's a lot of materials out in the front yard. And I was trying to rack my brain on and I couldn't find it, so.
Yeah, if you provide me with an address,
Okay.
I can definitely pull up the plans. Yeah, if you guys, anyone notices work going on that you want me to take a look at too, or you want me to send you the plans, I can do that very quickly.
But there's just not a process that aligns
Well-
with like permit and HDC approval and stuff. Is that what,
Right.
that's what you're getting at?
Things
I mean,
happen and they don't happen, like they don't finish everything that they said they were going to, and like, we don't have a mechanism for that, for monitoring it. And a lot of us go on, you go on walks, I walk, I mean, we notice
We notice a lot.
We notice a lot,
Right
but
there.
it would be nice to have a structure around that noticing, other than trying to remember.
Or as a newer
Yeah.
member, you know, like for instance, I notice on Lake Street, there's a large driveway. And I assume the materiality is good because it's all, you know, it's pavers, whatever, but I was like, oh, I wonder when that, you know, did that go before the board? I didn't see it, but
There's a whole
maybe
new
I missed
garage
that
built
meeting.
on Lake
I'm
Street.
like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. It is an interesting thought.
We did approve that,
Did we? Okay.
behind the little house,
Yeah,
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I had-
that was just
That was before my time.
not too long ago. But this one I'm talking about.
Mm, yeah.
Notice,
Right, no,
you notice
I
in a
notice
different
things now.
I have
way.
questions about
Yeah.
why
Right.
we approved it or whatever, but, I don't know, just.
What we've done in the past is we've always, and you can tell us if this doesn't work for you, but we all are pretty aware. And I think to John's point, like, there's a lot of things I remember, and then there's a lot of things I just don't. I was like, is that what we approved? But we've always traditionally shot it to you to go back and check the application, because we don't always keep, obviously, paper copies, and for you to check. And if there is an issue, then you let the owner know. But you're asking, is like there a built-in check process, which I don't think there is.
Yeah, or it might be nice for you to know when you see a project starting.
Yeah.
That we know, that I know we approved that one. It was over a year, it was like a year ago. It was a long time ago. It feels like over a year ago.
Yep.
What's our time?
They have to start within a year.
So I think they're right at the cusp of it. But they're tearing off roof and I can't remember what we approved. So if it's at the corner of Butler and Lucy, I don't know the address. It's on Lucy though. It's at the, right by Mill Pond. To the right.
Oh, that was the one that Jeffrey presented, that adding on,
Mhm.
and then we talked about that.
And
They
the
had a
deck.
clear roof.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
skylights, there was a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff.
Yep,
It's been
that
over-
was
I
on
think it's
the.
been over a year.
Ben, away, I think it has.
The one
been-
beside
I
Laura
was
Durham?
here for it.
Yeah.
Council,
You were here for it?
Mhm.
How long have you been on it?
because,
I
Mill
started in
Pond-
July of,
Were they?
so.
Yeah, I think you should check that one out, Grayson.
Okay. I mean, it's
Yeah.
loaded with dumpsters and material. It just started this week.
Any other commission comments? Welcome, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining
Yeah,
us.
Glad to have you.
Yes, we're thrilled to have you, and we haven't had a chance to chat before this, but we can sync up on anything you'd like to download on, so.
That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Opposed? No one wants to not adjourn? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, callers, new callers.
Callers.
Thank you for whatever this